Mongolian steppe does not whisper, it howls. It howls across the bones of men who believed they could outlast the cold, and failed. Long before the world called him Genghis Khan, he was a boy named Temujin, born in the year 1162 beneath an iron sky. His mother, Hoelun, gave birth to him clutching a clump of blood, an omen the Mongols said belonged only to conquerors. But destiny is cruel to those who dream early. Temujin's father, Yezugay, a tribal chief, was poisoned by a rival clan when Temujin was only 9. And in that instant, protection, home, and innocence vanished. The family, now leaderless, was abandoned by their own tribe, left on the frozen steppe with no food, no horses, and no allies. In Mongol law, that was not exile. It was execution by nature. Imagine it. A mother and her children scraping frozen roots from the earth, the sound of wind swallowing their cries, the endless horizon that offered no mercy. Temujin watched his brothers fight over scraps of food. He watched his mother trade dignity for survival. He learned not from teachers or elders, but from starvation, betrayal, and cold. The world around him whispered one lesson: no one will save you. You must become the storm that others fear. When his half-brother Bektur tried to steal from him, the boy Temujin made his first irreversible choice. He killed his own blood. Not from rage, but from understanding. In a world without mercy, compassion was weakness, and weakness was death. That was the moment ruthlessness was born. Not in a battlefield, not in a war camp, but in a hungry child's heart, as snow fell silent around the body of his brother. From that day, the steppe no longer frightened him. He began to understand its rhythm, the cruelty of the cold, the wisdom of hunger. The steppe was not evil. It was honest. It gave nothing freely, yet rewarded the relentless. And Temujin decided, if the world would not nurture him, he would command it. The boy who had learned to kill now had to learn to endure. After years of wandering the steppe with his starving family, Temujin began to gather whispers of loyalty, a few brave souls who saw in him something more than a desperate orphan. He was still young, but his eyes had aged beyond time. One morning, as frost crawled across the grasslands, a hunting party from the Taichud tribe appeared on horseback, enemies of his late father. They recognized him instantly, the son of Yasugi, the boy who might one day seek revenge. They didn't kill him. They made him an example. Bound in wooden stocks, a kong around his neck, Temujin was paraded like prey. The villagers laughed, threw scraps of food, and watched him struggle to breathe under the weight of humiliation. For months, he was kept under guard, forced to serve, mocked and beaten. At night, he looked at the stars and wondered if his father's spirit watched in silence, ashamed or proud. In the stillness of captivity, a different kind of ruthlessness was born. Not the wild rage of a hungry child, but the cold patience of a man who understands time. He realized something. Rage burns out, but vengeance waits. Under a sky fractured by lightning, a guard grew careless. Temujin waited, silent, breath steady, eyes fixed. When the chance came, he struck with the speed of desperation and the precision of purpose. He escaped into the dark, the wooden stock still around his neck, dragging him down, cutting his skin. Every drop of blood that touched the soil became a promise. He found refuge in the tent of a stranger, a man who risked his life to remove the shackle. It was the first act of kindness Temujin had seen in years, and it branded his mind with another truth. Even the ruthless must protect those who show loyalty, because loyalty is rarer than gold. From that night on, Temujin was no longer just surviving. He was forging himself. Every scar, every humiliation became steel. He began to understand people the way hunters understand prey. Their fear, their hunger, their desires. He vowed that if he ever rose to power, his enemies would never chain him again, and his followers would never starve again. When dawn broke, the boy who once cried on frozen earth looked over the horizon of the steppe and saw not endless wilderness, but a battlefield waiting to be claimed. He had been a prisoner. Now, he was something far more dangerous. A man who had learned freedom by feeling its absence. The Mongolian dawn rose cold and endless. 1,000 shades of gray stretched across the plains, each hill hiding an enemy, each gust of wind carrying a whisper of blood. Temujin had returned from chains with something more dangerous than anger: clarity. He understood now the steppe had no gods, only balance. And in this balance, one truth ruled all. Either you command fear, or you become its servant. He began with a handful of men, hunters, outcasts, slaves who had lost their masters. He promised them not riches, not luxury, but order. A world where loyalty would be rewarded and betrayal would be erased. Unlike the chiefs before him, Temujin didn't lead by lineage. He led by merit. He rose from the dirt, and he reminded his followers that he had bled in it. He made them believe that following him was not servitude, it was survival. Soon the small band grew, and with it his legend. The other tribes mocked him, a boy pretending to be a Khan, until the first one crossed him. When a rival chief broke his oath and stole his wife, Berthe, Temujin did not wail or beg for help. He gathered his riders, tracked the kidnappers across frozen fields, and took her back. But he didn't stop there. He hunted down the men responsible and annihilated their camp, burning it into ash under the northern stars. To those who witnessed it, that night became a new law. Those who betrayed Temujin do not vanish, they are erased. From that fire, the wolf of the steppe was born. He began uniting the fractured Mongol clans, not through charm or promise, but through fear shaped by justice. When he conquered a tribe, he spared those who obeyed, but executed every man who defied him, sometimes before their family's eyes. It was not cruelty for pleasure. It was the construction of order, a brutal architecture built on consequence. And yet, within his camp, something rare existed: fairness. He forbade his soldiers from taking women or food from peasants without permission. He punished theft, rape, and corruption as severely as betrayal. His ruthlessness, it turned out, was not chaos. It was control. It was the belief that fear could forge peace where mercy could not. By his 30s, the name Temujin carried across the wind like a prayer and a warning. He was no longer just a man. He was a system. He had turned pain into precision, loss into law. And one night, as he stood atop a ridge, the firelight painting his face in gold and red, he whispered to his generals, "If the wolf does not lead, the herd will devour itself." From that moment on, he was no longer Temujin, son of Yasuge. He was Genghis Khan, lord of all who live by the strength of the wind and the edge of the blade. Thousands of tents glittered like stars stitched into the earth. Every man, woman, and horse belonged to one will, Genghis Khan's. What began as a handful of hungry exiles had become a moving city of war, a civilization on horseback. But even now, Genghis was restless. He had won battles, not destiny. Not yet. He gathered his generals, Subutai, Jabe, Jelme, and Kublai, and spoke under the blood moon. The tribes of the steppe have lived as wolves, tearing each other apart for meat and pride. From this night forward, there will be one law, one sky, one Khan. The law of iron and wind. To forge an empire, Genghis first had to forge order. He created the yasa, a code of law carved not in stone, but in blood and fear. No man could steal a horse, lie to his comrade, or abandon his brother in battle. Even his own sons were not above the law. "A man who rules through fear of punishment is weak," he told Subutai. "A man who rules through respect for his punishment will live forever." The yasa was brutal, and yet fair. Soldiers who followed orders were rewarded with wealth, land, and glory, regardless of birth or blood. But those who broke loyalty faced execution without hesitation. Justice was immediate. Equality was earned through obedience. The uniting of the tribes. Genghis rode across the plains, tribe after tribe bending their banners to his wind. Some submitted willingly, trading their freedom for safety. Others fought and vanished. His battles were not random, they were surgical. He would let rival clans fight each other until both were weak, then sweep in like a storm to restore order under his name. He offered them a choice: obey and live as brothers, resist and live as dust. By 1206, when the last banner fell, the Council of Chiefs gathered on the Onan River. There, beneath the eternal blue sky, they raised him high and named him Genghis Khan, universal ruler. Drums thundered across the plains, horses screamed, and fire lit the horizon. For the first time in history, the Mongol tribes were united. The boy who once starved in exile now commanded a nation forged from scars.